When you feel like life has dealt you a hand of unfair cards, instead of folding, you double down and you stuck in the game. You faced battles, you felt broken, but hey, do us a favor, put your hand on your heart. You feel that? You're still here. Welcome to the Resilience Files Unlocked, where survival meets transformation. Welcome back to the Resilience Files Unlocked. I'm your host, Carrie Bernunz, and we are so excited because we have another special guest today. Sometimes life doesn't break us all at once. Sometimes it happens slowly, piece by piece. A career change, a relationship cracks, a health crisis appears, and suddenly life, once we knew it, is gone. But what if those are just moments? Not the end of the story, but the beginning of something new. Look, today's story reminds us that resilience is not about avoiding loss. It's about learning how to rise again when everything has fallen apart. Welcome back to the Resilience Files podcast. Unlocked, this podcast is dedicated to sharing real stories of adversity, courage, and the strength people discover in life's most difficult chapters. Each episode reminds us that resilience isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about finding the courage to keep moving forward, even when life has its ways of changing things, even when it's not expected. Trigger warning for today's episode. Before we begin today's episode, this conversation relates to serious illness, homelessness, emotional abandonment, trauma from a car accident, and a little bit more. So, while this episode ultimately carries the message of hope and healing, some part of our guest essay and story that she's going to share with us may be emotionally difficult for some listeners. So I want you to take care of yourself while you're listening to this and pause if you need to. Your well-being always comes first. As mentioned before, we have a lovely guest on today. Our guest, Grace Aquino, is not only a business consultant, realtor, writer, and speaker, but as we do here on the Resilience Files podcast, we love to hear our guest's essay. So without further ado, we're going to allow Grace herself to read her essay aloud, and then we're going to break it down and hear about her resilience journey. Thank you, Grace. Feel free to go ahead.
Thank you, and very good advice telling about the trigger advisory. I appreciate that. So, where do we begin when a life has had so many beginnings? Some say we should start at the start, but for me, beginnings have appeared again and again. After every fall, every loss, every rebirth, my life has been shaped by journeys that took me north and south, east and west, across careers, countries, relationships, and seasons of the soul. Yet, the most meaningful beginning of all emerged from my deepest pain, the season that transformed survival into purpose. At the time that my life changed forever, I was a woman in midlife, highly active, accomplished, and outwardly successful. I was immersed in real estate transactions, business consulting, volunteering, community leadership, and social activities. My calendar was full. My days were so busy. My energy seemed limitless. I served clients as a negotiator, mediator, problem solver, and sometimes even as a therapist. I volunteered as a master gardener, led community events, and served as treasurer. I surrounded myself with inspiring seniors, learning from their wisdom and longevity. After a 25-year career in corporate America, I have built a life of productivity and service. But behind that full schedule was an emptiness I tried not to see. I was married, yet emotionally alone. My home was marked by indifference and emotional neglect. Rather than confront the pain, I poured myself into work and service. I kept moving. I kept helping others. I kept succeeding. Activity became my shield. Achievement became an anesthesia. Being strong meant pretending I was fine when I was not. Then, in a single moment, everything shifted. After living a successful day of making real estate deals, filled with gratitude for the abundance that was coming ahead, I drove carefully through an intersection near a police station. Suddenly, an 18-year-old driver ran a stop sign and crashed into my car. My vehicle spun violently, 720 degrees, across 4 lanes of traffic, turning completely backward. Cars were approaching from every direction, yet by God's mercy, none collided with me. I survived, but I was not the same. I was taken to the hospital, shaken and terrified. From that day forward, driving became a nightmare. Every corner replayed the crash in my mind. Fear became my constant passenger. How could I live without driving, without freedom, without independence? Soon after, my body started to betray me. Violent seizures overtook me. A pre-existent brain tumor caused by long-term medication was activated by the trauma. My legs began collapsing beneath me. I fell without warning. My mind grew foggy, my speech slurred, my hands could no longer type or write. The woman who once managed multiple careers and responsibilities could barely manage her own body. Doctors' visits replaced meetings, medical tests replaced closings, medications replaced plans. No cure appeared, only more prescriptions. My world shrank to hospitals and waiting rooms. Eventually, I even became paraplegic. Only then did doctors truly recognize the severity of my condition. Only then did I receive comprehensive care. But by that time, my life as I have known it has been gone. Illness stripped away my independence, and then heartbreak stripped away my security. During this vulnerable time, my marriage collapsed completely. My husband refused to share our resources for my basic needs, such as housing, food, even clothing. I found myself from one day to the next homeless, ill, and abandoned. I had once managed wealth, the wealth of others even, projects and communities. Now I have nothing but faith and a very fragile hope. The emotional impact was devastating. I grieved my health. I grieved my marriage. I grieved my former self. I questioned my worth. I questioned my future. I questioned why God had allowed me so much loss to fall on one life. I felt invisible, disposable, forgotten, that I was not alone. Friend after friend extended their hands. One offered shelter, another offered clothes and shoes, another offered encouragement. Piece by piece, they helped me rebuild. Through them, God reminded me that love still existed, that kindness still flowed, that I was still being seen. My turning point came not in a hospital room, but in a quiet promise. I realized that my survival was not accidental. It was miraculous. Indeed, I made a covenant at that time with God. If He spared my life, I would use my knowledge, experience, and voice to serve others. I would transform pain into purpose. I would turn wounds into wisdom. And so my journey as a writer began. Writing healed me. Each chapter revealed my spirit. Each sentence restored my confidence. Each story reminded me that I was still capable, still valuable, still called. Little miracles appeared along the way. Unexpected support, timely opportunities, night provisions. Somehow I was sustained. Somehow I kept going. Today, I stand in a very different season. My body still carries scars. My heart still remembers, but my spirit is stronger than ever. I am not who I was. I am wiser, more
Mm-hmm.
compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
more grounded in faith, more
Yes.
aware that success is not measured by titles, income, or applause, but by impact, integrity, and inner peace. If I could speak to anyone listening to my story, my message would be this: do not give up on yourself. Pain does not disqualify you. Loss does not erase you. Illness does not define you. Betrayal does not diminish you. Your story is still being written.
Yes.
Sometimes God just allows everything to fall apart so He can rebuild you on a stronger foundation. Resilience is not pretending to be strong. It is choosing to rise again when you have every reason to stay down. I began again with nothing. No money, no home, no health, no certainty. And yet I'm building a life of meaning. I wrote a book about hope. I found my voice. I reclaimed my destiny. That is
Mm.
healing. That is transformation. That is faith in action. And this is only the beginning.
Wow. Grace, I wish I could reach out and give you a big, big, big hug right now. Ah. Woo!
Thank you. I
How
feel
do
it.
you feel? How are you feeling after reading that out loud?
Well, obviously, my feelings pour out because I can recall the emotions that I've been through.
Right.
However, the biggest one is really to have hope and
Mm.
how friendships really rescued me. So amongst the storm, there were so many people that I had planted seeds without ever thinking that I was going to get anything in kind. Little by little, they did help me, which
Yeah,
what would appear like silly little things, but that were extremely meaningful to me. Even
absolutely.
it changed my perception on automated messages that people
Yeah.
receive on the internet. And so many times people think they're spam. Well, when you're alone, they're not. So it is moving, but I'm in another season, like I mentioned.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Guys, so I want to take it back a little bit. Before your accident and before life took this unexpected turn, can you tell us what life looked like during that season for you?
Yes, so I did not acknowledge that I was living a lonely marriage, an alone marriage with many difficulties, that I gave chances and chances. And sometimes we are raised in a way that we want to give chances,
Hmm.
where chances are not merited, because we need to keep in mind that the first person that we need to love is ourselves, of course, God, but ourselves.
Yeah.
And we keep, like you mentioned, our health and be in charge of that. And sometimes the most healthy thing that you can do is letting go,
Mm.
assessing the situation really in a way that what is the best scenario for you, regardless. And sometimes I think we live in this framework of expectations that we need to provide other people, and we get settled, we are comfortable,
Mhm.
and we stay in that just because it's expected from us. And some situations should not be like that. And I have met so many people that decide to be settled in unloving situations that can turn catastrophic.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I'm alive and well now. I completely recover my health, and yeah, it's just a reflection that I would like for everybody to take home and see how's your life and how do you want your life to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like, you know, that you were incredibly active. You were serving others, building your career, staying constantly busy, but there was also emotional loneliness in your marriage. And that is definitely heavy to deal with. And you also, when you were writing your essay, you wrote something I felt that was very powerful. And you said, activity became your shield and achievement became your anesthesia. And that's powerful. Yet, it's also something that's reflective of a lot of people when they stay busy to avoid the deeper pain that exists, right? Can you tell us what that meant for you in that moment? Like, what did you mean by that?
Yes, I am a people person.
Yeah.
People usually tell me you're sweet and this and that. And I love to be around people that
Mhm.
fits my energy. And if I couldn't have the emotions at home, I I decided, well, I'm going to get them anyway because I'm always friendly and I make friends easily. Through volunteering, I would meet a ton of people and through my work as well. And they usually turn into friendships, long-term friendships. So I have were friends literally all over the world,
Yeah.
which was mentioned in my books. And it felt obviously much less lonely. I can recall now how activities of my choice, for instance, certain movies or ballet, opera, and so on. What I really like, I enjoy it with my friends. I would buy them tickets. So with my partner, instead, he would only go to activities that I paid for that he liked. At the moment, you don't realize that. It's like you don't see the full picture, how you're surviving. You're in survival mode, really,
Right.
like waived. And even though you do try to better your relationship and you do talk to a psychologist and bring exercises home and the person ignores them, then you still try to have a normal life and you normalize it with other activities. But at
Mm.
some point, I mean, it really becomes clear because if you are sick, if you are in need of your partner's support, people are not going to come to your house to feed you if you
Right.
cannot get out of bed. Although there's some people that do carry through church meals and stuff, but to the extent that I was ill, I really needed my partner to pick up.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
at that point, I think you repeat your vows in your head and you realize how extremely neglected you are when you are not even offered water.
Shame on that man. Shame on him. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that type of experience, and no one should have to experience that. not at your highest high, your lowest low, or whatever part of life. Like, you make a vow, you stick to it. Even if you choose not to honor the vow fully, you stick to it. This is a person that's been by your side. So I do want to acknowledge that I'm terribly sorry that that was your experience. And you seem like such a loving, beautiful person. And I feel like so many people also, find themselves in a lonely or difficult situation, and they do tend to go find what they're looking for hourly. And that's when you know that the relationship is definitely walking on eggshells. There's a hazard and needs to be checked out. But I want to kind of continue to go into that aspect that you're saying, like, even when you needed the basic needs, water. I want you to take us back to the day of the accident. You described your car spinning 720 degrees across 4 lanes of traffic. That must have been incredibly terrifying. Do you remember in that moment, did you did you have the police or the ambulance contact your husband at the time? Do you remember in that moment, did he ever care? Did he ever show up, or he didn't care at all? Was he completely checked out and you just realized in that moment that, like, it was worse than what it was? Or what do you remember about that moment of your life?
It's amazing how those events really transform your life and you remember, like in a slow motion, everything.
Mhm.
You can retell the story little by little. And I do remember how I was very happy and I was approaching the corner and very aware of being a realtor. I cannot have even one single ticket. And I just have time to say that, assuming it was a man, that man is not going to boom,
Wow.
meaning I was going to say stop and then boom.
It happened, yeah.
The accident happened or the crash happened. It's not an accident. So she would be fined liable, but I just didn't want to go through the whole ordeal, which could make me more sick. So all those movements and so on, and going back and forth, and all the people that were behind me who were terrified of how they could have been involved in the collision and how extremely upset they were because they also witnessed what had happened and very responsible person who completely missed a stop sign. She just had gotten her driver's license. When it happened, I smelled gas. So the sensation was that the car was going to explode as well. I don't know how I managed to get out. And then people started helping me, and I was eh, shaken in shock and also hurt. And they put me, it was a rainy day, and they put me on the grass. So I got all wet. He was called, and he came to the scene, but he was pretty adamant about me having an ambulance. That he cared more about the money of the deductible, rather than me being safe, being taken care to a hospital in an ambulance after such a very strong collision. So that just gives you a reflection of which I got pretty well afterwards in the
Mm-mm.
proceedings where he has told publicly that he married me for money,
Yeah.
basically to be a slave in his state and take care of everything meanwhile he traveled and produce at the same time, make money so that it wouldn't be just his earnings. It's pretty hard when you realize that a person is capable to say that they never loved you, that they marry with you because of money. And then after more than 10 years of marriage, that they want to annul a marriage. And how can you annul all the different things that happened in all that time? You can't.
Not at all.
You deny that I sold his parents' home, and
Right.
you can't deny that I improved the state, and you can't deny so many things, like 10 years or so of taxes that I did
Mhm.
and for his his deceased sister, and so on. There's so many things that I did that I contributed to the home. You cannot deny that. So there's no way to annul a 10-year marriage. Give me a break. But that's how you really internalize the point in which a person really did not love you at all. At all.
Mhm.
There might have been signals here and there, and of course, the neglect is one of them, and the emotional abuse. But once the person, which by the way has me still on Facebook showing my face as PR.
No,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's horrible because I asked Meta, please take it down,
Right.
and they haven't. So there's a chat that perhaps some people need to have about narcissism, which is a big topic, and how they just produce an image for other people. And that's what I was. I was just an image. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that for such a long time. And he literally wasted, more than a decade of my life that I could have had perhaps somebody else, or just be by myself, because I was really happy before getting married. I was living by the beach, I thought I was never going to marry again.
Mhm.
Then, there's these sort of characters who totally portray like an actor, a certain person who doesn't really exist. It's just
Yeah.
to convince you into a relationship, and then little by little the layers of the onion start getting discovered.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I did, and it took quite a lot, a very difficult episode, but I did, and I was able to get out alive, which I'm appreciative of,
Yeah, it's a
and
blessing.
recover.
I love that. Wow, you have been through a lot, Grace. It really breaks my heart to hear the fact that you were married to someone for over 10 years. And instead of the first thought coming to mind is to get you medical help, that they question the cost of the ambulance. And that's obviously a red flag. But to go on to say, like, if not surviving the accident wasn't enough, that's something to rejoice. This is where the health challenges and begin to escalate. Like you experience, then after that, you said you were having seizures and memory loss and neurological complications. And at the same time, you were depending on the person that you made these vows to come through and to step up, and they failed you. They didn't, and not only did they fail you, but they left you in the midst of a health crisis. Like, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I mean, somebody's listening today is probably, they may relate to your story. I want to know, was the most difficult part of navigating this new medical journey like the heartbreak and not having someone to rely on while dealing with that? Or was it, well, I mean, I feel like I'm answering the question, but you're going to tell us the real answer because in the midst of that, then what happened? He kicks you out of the house. You have no place to go. Or what was that transition looking like for you? Because I know you were saying you were dealing with homelessness. He wouldn't feed or supply you with necessities.
I was hospitalized when I became paraplegic, and I suffered physical abuse at the hospital. Unfortunately, the nurses, I was on camera the whole time, and sometimes I had to remind him, "You're on camera," and then he would say, "Shoot," and then he would retrieve. But he had control of my cell phone, and there were things that happened at the hospital that were terrible. Thankfully, the hospital did call for a follow-up. At that point, when I just came back, he tried to play hero at the hospital, meanwhile denying access to pain management doctors and so on. And unfortunately, something very common that happens in hospitals is they listen to the man in the room, and they did. and I had no voice. So the doctors would go away, and so many things happened there. As soon as we got into the car to return home, I knew I was in deep trouble. He went immediately upstairs and completely, was not even talking to me after playing, the good husband in the hospital. Meanwhile, preventing care. So the hospital was the one who called the police.
Oh, good.
And I had just one decision to make. I had to leave because otherwise I would not survive
Mm.
without anybody carrying water for me or meals or, continue my care. I would not survive with a situation that already escalated a lot in the hospital. If he was able with cameras to be physical abusive, you can imagine what could have happened at home.
Right.
So I saw myself very close to passing. There was a settlement pending in which I had put him as beneficiary,
Mhm.
unknowingly that he might perhaps do something for me to go faster. So um, the the police really didn't give me a whole lot of choices after having help organizations that help women.
Right.
It was no bet for me.
No.
I got one phone call, and thankfully, one phone call made it when my friend heard me cry and asked for shelter. She said, "Yes, come, come."
Yeah.
And they dropped me off there, and I had no shoes. I was in pajamas, no luggage, nothing.
Wow.
What's the most difficult part? Well, realizing what the facade you have had at home, the the whole set of lies, and how I was unable to be myself, the stronger person that I was,
Yeah.
but my mind was making a rewind of all that time and how there were so many things that had happened that had been tolerated. It was just incredible how the mind can go backwards and start connecting the dots,
Right.
which I had not done before. So I was really weak mentally. I felt completely apart. I don't think if those friends would not have sheltered me, I didn't feel capable of renting a home, being a realtor, paying a cable bill, arranging for an electricity bill, and things like that. I felt
Yeah.
the lack of affection was so immense. And it's like it was a tsunami of how seeing all those emotions come together that I didn't have affection, true affection from my significant other for more than a decade.
Wow.
And just having that process going through my mind, how it literally opened it up. And I just realized, oh my God, and I have to heal and start to reveal myself and make the best of this situation and figure out, and you want to rest. You're so tired. You want to rest, but there's no time to rest. You have to figure out what's the next step. And then you feel a lot of pressure from different parties. Oh, you have to divorce. You have to this. You have to that. You have to that. You have... It's like, where do I start? I'm exhausted already just managing the feelings.
Yeah, you're feeling depleted with your health. Your marriage has fallen completely apart. The person that you trusted has now abandoned you. You, right, had this facade for over a decade of his life, and you're trying to put your life back together after this traumatic accident in the midst of it all. And it's so interesting because I'm sure somebody's listening today and they're carrying a facade in their life and pretending as if everything is going okay at home. And they're finding out, you know, how to receive outside happiness or joy or peace. But that's not the answer if you can't. When things get tough, when things get hard, you can't rely on that person. If that person is so far gone, that even in the midst of argument or conflict, because that's natural, it will happen if you are with someone for a long time because we are human. But you're talking about a whole nother layer of a person that deserves zero bit of empathy from me, I know that, and has I don't know who his parents are, but I just feel so incredibly sad because in the midst of you trying to pull yourself together and out, you're dealing with so much, and you're right, you're trying to get rest and you're trying to find yourself, and it's a lot. I mean, that kind of abandonment during illness can just not only be deeply painful, but it's isolating and you're trying to pull it together. You mentioned so many different things during that point of like homelessness and just living between friends' homes and the friends opening the door for you. You wrote that, you know, you were saying that sometimes the darkest chapters of your life reveal the kindness of others. And something that you mentioned early on in this podcast was that you've always planted these seeds, right? And you never imagined that you would need to kind of reap what this maybe the rewards or the fruit that the seeds that you planted would yield. But I honestly think that I'm happy that your friends came through, but you are always giving to others. When you reached that point that felt like a breaking point for you, you were tired, you were exhausted, you're living between homes. What helped you survive emotionally during that time?
A book. I would have to say, in addition to seeing the kindness of my friends, the few friends, because there were some that completely shied away, was they
Yeah.
could not face the situation. People who had promised me to help me when the time came shied away, but there were the good friends. And one of these good friends gave me a beautiful book called Hope. And it's by Pope Francis. It's a compilation of articles. And when I saw the book and I would read the four words HOPE, and I was out of hope. Like, how do I even start? I don't have the physical capability to do my job anymore. I don't have the resources. How do I find hope? And however, that book, I took it to heart and read article after article, and it just started to build it ignited a little bit of light. And I have studied the art of living from Seneca and Aristotle and Plato for many years.
Mhm.
8 times that I was not well. And it started to kick in to kind of that spark that was offering me that book called Hope. It just ignited a flame that kept growing a little bit. And like I said, it's like little miracles happen every day.
Yes.
My life started from the friend who gave me shelter, the friend who gave me clothes. I was able to get my car. There was another friend who helped me get a few things. And then I took the big leap of going across the states and driving for the first time by myself many miles to get away from it all. So I moved out of state and I didn't think I was going to be capable. 4 days it took. And I visited Graceland, the house of Elvis Presley,
Yeah.
because I had, when I was very, very sick, I was listening to his gospel album, which I encourage everybody to listen. And the words were just so uplifting, and prayer kept me going. And I felt accompanied. During that trip, I felt I was not alone.
Yeah.
Somehow, somebody was guarding me, and I
Yeah.
was able to stay awake for hours driving until I reached my destination to another person's charity to
Yeah.
have a bed on a trunk bed. Can you imagine?
Wow.
And this just happened like that. There were, a set of coincidences in which I would find another friend that gave me a way to have a temporary job and earn a little bit of money just enough to buy food, just enough for the next step of the journey, just enough to have the legality to then get a place, just enough, and so on. It was a sense of wanderlust all the time, how God was putting a little another stone, and I would ask, just show me the way, guide me, show me the way, and another stone would be there to jump into that one, and then I was safe again. And so I cannot tell you how many different ways I have obtained food from people. Many acts of mercy, incredible kindness. So my way to give back is that promise that I gave to God, to Bright.
Yeah.
What He gives, He has given me knowledge that I did not know was going to have this purpose to teach longevity to people. And
Right.
as my doctor said, my God, you're the perfect example of to teach longevity because you
Yeah.
have overcome how many diseases and conditions and are healthy now that it's quite incredible. And I can join what is the research I've done on the art of living with the medical research, with my own conditions, having overcoming them, and then all the friendships that I purposely did with so many seniors because I wanted to learn from their wisdom. So I surrounded myself in the last 15 years with a lot of octogenarians, and they would always be so generous in their knowledge on how to live a good life, a healthy and productive life, that when I decided, well, God, what's going to be my first book? It had to be The Fountain of Youth, The Power to a
I
Healthy and
love
Well.
that. Let's get into that. This is, I feel like, the moment where your story shifted from survival into purpose. And like you said, the doctors are saying you're a great example of what longevity looks like. And then you started using writing as a healing. Because as we do wrap up, I do want to talk about your book. So, your book, The Fountain of Youth, The Power of Healthy and Well Lived Life, came out of this experience. Can you tell us? I feel like writing can sometimes become a bridge between pain and transformation. How did writing help you heal? And tell us more about that book.
Well, journaling is a great tool for meditation and reflection.
Hmm.
As those thoughts of rewinding my life in this relationship came about, they were so overwhelming that I decided I was going to start writing them, writing the feelings to understand them more. And I was pretty sure I was going to forget everything that was pouring into my brain. So as a meditation practice, I started journaling as they would come. And I'm talking about, in the middle of the night that they were coming. I would sleep 3 hours and then the thoughts would come. And then I would sleep with a notepad next to me and a pen ready. And sometimes I had my eyes open, sometimes I didn't. And amazingly enough, when you would see the notepad in the morning, the lines were completely straight and they had perfect handwriting. And I could read back what I had written. So it related all the different experiences throughout many years and many things. So then it made sense on what I had experienced. So I could reflect when I read it in the morning. Okay, then if you add to that this and that, then, it just completes the story. So it's a tremendous tool, and that's what we have to have kind of resources, whether it's a gratitude or breathing or journaling or taking a hot shower. And so we build resources to build our resilience. And I think that was a great method that I used at that moment in time to be able to survive what I was living.
I love that. Wow. That is so beautiful. And so it's amazing how you've rebuilt your work, your purpose, and your mission into your book. And today looks very different, obviously, than it did before that accident. I want to know where you are in your life today. Where is the book available at? Where can people find it?
Well, I wrote The Fountain of Youth, The Power to a Healthy and Well-Lived Life out of the medical research and the experience I have lived and all the interviews I have made to octogenarians. It's a gift to humanity so that people can reach at least 80 years old because it's a guide of daily habits on how to live a purposeful life. The younger a person is, the more they can really realize what's their career, their purpose, and so on. So it has what I call the 11 keys for a personal journey of transformation
Hmm.
to live, to go into well-being, and living to be an octogenarian. It's available on Amazon and Ingram. And it's this is the hardcover because it's a daily habit guide. It's really a book that should be on our nightstand because it provides information on, for instance, if you need to pick yourself up. It has affirmations. It has exercises to how to practice gratitude. It has prayer, and it has resilience methodology. And it gives a ton of tricks of how people have reached that age
I
in a
love
compact
that.
manner because I didn't want it to be a huge book. It's like a 2 hour read, but the idea is not to discard the book, is to have it just next to your bed. So if I'm done, what do I do? Pick up your book on this page, and then you're going to make an affirmation in front of the mirror, and then you're going to feel better and be ready to take the work.
I know that's right.
But I decided to keep going. This is, let's say, like from 16 years old on. And because of all the different friends that came to the rescue and an experience that I had with a child, and I was shy myself, believe it or not, I wrote this children's book called I Was Shy.
I love that.
And it's a well-being book too, but for kids because it builds their resilience and it encourages kids to get out of their shell, to build friends because friends are a treasure because they rescue you
Yes.
when you do not have a family. So that's the message of this book, to hopefully reach from kids on, get out of your comfort zone and start making friends because they're totally worth it. And
Yes.
never know when they're gonna be there for you. It's not the purpose, but you do not have to be alone in this life. You can just have friends, good friends. And a friend
Yeah.
is just around the corner. So it's resilience for kids. It's great for teachers or for anybody who has a quiet child in their life and want to encourage them to get out and start making friends. I Was Shy is also available on Amazon and Ingram.
I love that. Thank you so, so much. I'll definitely add that to our show notes below. As we wrap up, my last question for you is looking back at everything you went through, illness, loss, homelessness, what do you truly think that resilience means to you now?
Well, resilience, as you know, is the ability to thrive despite the challenges that one may face. And everybody faces challenges. One way or another, they can be of different dimensions. To me, it means once more that you can truly be resilient regardless of what happens. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves that on a daily basis because I still, need to provide for myself from some time ago forward. And it takes a new mindset to really be by yourself and just have that confidence every day. So I don't think you're ever done with it. You have to practice it and continue trying to thrive. So just seek the resources out. Stoicism is a great philosophy to follow. And to me, I mean, if the message of hope gets to anyone, please do not give up. Don't give up. When you have a bad moment, remember it's just that moment in time, and there's going to be a new sunshine. So try to do one of the activities that I recommend in the book, but you can search for your resources as well. It doesn't have to be necessarily in my book, although I recommend it because it summarizes, what to do about it and the techniques. I know that there's hard conversations when people are feeling down. They can do something that cannot be remedied. The S word, I don't like to mention it. And many times people feel so down that they're very close to getting it done. I would encourage you to call a good friend, listen to music, take a shower, do something to distract you from that thought that is just momentary. Believe
Yes.
me, momentary.
Yeah.
So there's going to be another day. And if you feel so, so bad, please remember there's other people that are having it much worse than you. If my life, please feel free to use it if you think my life was so bad as a reminder that it can get really tough. I know for sure other people are in worse circumstances. And to me, I myself has reminded of that many times. And then I pick myself up again and again. So
Yeah. Miss Grace.
I believe in the positive movement. It's not shallow. It can come from your core values. Try to
Yeah.
build upon it and start employing the resources and people around you. Okie dokie, because together we're better.
Together we're better, Miss Grace Aquino. Your story reminds us that of something incredibly powerful, and sometimes life dismantles the structures we build, but it's not to destroy us, but to rebuild us to be deeper and our life to be more meaningful. Your journey shows us that resilience is not about pretending you're strong. It's about choosing to rise again and again, even when
Yeah.
everything has been stripped away. It could be your health, that could be your husband, that can be your job, it could be your sanity for a moment. But you're right, we're better together and we're better here on this side of earth. So if you're ever thinking of that S word, just know
No,
that this too will pass and that you got it in you and things will get better. You just got to keep going. And I want to say again, your journey is a reminder that pain does not erase purpose, that even in the hardest seasons, hope still can and will take root. Everybody, this is the Resilience Files podcast unlocked. Thank you so much for listening today. If this story resonated with you, please share this episode with someone who needs encouragement today. And remember that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about finding the courage to rise again, even when you do. I'm your host, Carrie Bernuns, and please check the show notes. Support Grace and her book. Leave it as a bedside manner read. However, if you don't see it for yourself, see it for a friend. Check it out on Amazon. It has been great. Thank you so much.